Welcome back, students. Today we'll be talking about CSS. As in the previous lecture, we have just completed JavaScript, and today is the first class of about CSS basics. And we need to know about some introductory part of CSS, what is CSS and how it is used and all. So today, being the first class, we'll be just looking into how we can code in the previous, how to link a file, and before that, we need to understand what is CSS and what it is all about. So let's start. So now the first question arises is what is CSS? Now, in general terms, when we are talking about a web programming and we need to develop a website, there are four different aspects we need to take care of. The first is obviously HTML, which actually is the document. The second is CSS, which is just a styling part of the document, how it looks like, how the layout would be. And the third segment is your server-side script, which can be anything like PHP or Java or ASP or any server-side programming language. And the fourth part is actually the database, right? So, but when we are talking about React Native, we need to focus on only two parts. One is the JavaScript, another one is your CSS. Now, in CSS, first of all, what the full form of CSS? Now, CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet. Now, this style sheet is actually meant to focus on the design or the style or the way a web page will look like. Now, when we talk about CSS in our future classes, it will be an in-depth analysis of what about your selectors, properties, classes, IT attributes. Now, how to use them will be focused upon in a practical oriented way. But as because this is the first class, we need to understand that CSS is one of the basic important things we need to use for styling purposes. Now, it is a language which is basically used for styling or designing a website. Now, whenever we talk about a website in previous years, it was just a web page without any look and feel, and it actually looks very odd. So, CSS was actually introduced to just give a good look to the web page. And a web page will look better if we add CSS attributes to it. And how we'll achieve that, we'll have to have a basic understanding about um, this in the future lectures. But focusing on CSS is just this cascading style sheet part, which is used to style a web page. Okay. Now, now this particular CSS, whatever we are talking about, or CSS3, if we are if we have to deal about the latest version. Now, styling a website is a standardized thing and will be done by all the programmers across the globe. So whatever concepts we are about to learn are the standardized concepts. Therefore, we talk about this particular thing as CSS basics. So everybody should know about this CSS concepts, and wherever you are creating a website, in whichever part of the globe you are using it, everybody uses this particular CSS as a standard. So we should always use it, and we have to know the basics of CSS. Okay. Now, there is a small prerequisite, that is without HTML, CSS doesn't work. So we need to have a understanding about HTML. And if you want to have a basic understanding of HTML, you can follow my lectures in this thing. You can find out my lectures anywhere. You can just go through that HTML part and know about the tags, the elements, the document structure. But HTML is something which focuses on the document, okay, the structure of the document. What are the components? For example, it has a head part. Initially, it has a tag called HTML. A whole document is written inside that tag only. And it has two main parts. One is the head tag, another one is your body tag. The body tag contains all the contents of the web page, and the head tag contains the meta informations, the links, that is style sheet links, then scripts, script informations, JavaScript informations, JavaScript links and all. So we have to have an understanding of HTML because that is what we'll not cover here. So we need to have an understanding of HTML here. Secondly, the version of CSS which will be taken care of is CSS3, which is the latest version. And we are using it because it has a lot of new features and we can use them for our own benefits. Okay. One of the most important criteria will be the animation part, the transition part, which will be taken care of in one of the lectures. And apart from that, there are many more concepts which we will be understanding in CSS. We'll have an overview of that in the next slide itself. Now, why do we need to use CSS? Now, see, in this particular image, you can find out the left part is a web page which has a style sheet. That is, it has a design, a CSS file attached to it. On the right hand side, the web page which you are seeing, that is here, it is a web page which doesn't have any style sheet. So it looks very simple, right? And it is not at all attractive. So to make a web page much more attractive, it is very important that you add a CSS to it, a style sheet to it, and so that you can include animations, fonts, stylings, and everything. Right. Now, why do we use? If you have a question in mind that why should we use CSS, then some of the reasons may be number one, the styling part, the look, the way the web page is being produced to the client. Now, some web pages may have endless limited of contents, but when you produce it to the client, it must look good. And when it has to look good, you have to have some styling information on it. Now, how to create a good website? A good website is created with 30% through its contents and 70% through its design, the way it is produced to the client. So, if the client seems very happy to see the website, obviously your work is half done. And thereon, then comes the content part. Okay, what are the contents? How you produce them? Now, CSS not only takes care of the styling, but it has some important things like how to create the layout, how to create a responsive web page, how the page will open up, how the layout would be in different medias. For example, when you are opening a web page on your desktop, it may look in a different layout. When you are opening your website on a mobile phone, then it may look in a different way. So how the layout would be, how the design should look, you have to have to code for everything. So if HTML look takes care of the content, then CSS obviously is meant for the style, the how the web page will be produced to the client. So layout, designing, styling. Moreover, there are some animations which come up, and obviously CSS3, being the latest in the market, have some very important animations and transition effects which we can which we can use in our website. And when a website comes in front of you with a very good looks, with obviously there are certain creative ideas, the color, the contrasting colors, the way you produce it, the way you create the layout, the animations which you are using. Apart from these three things, there are very important things like fonts. What font you are using? Now, in today's market, there are numerous of fonts which are being created, which may be present with your library, which may not be present. So there is an advantage that you can download a font of your choice. You can give the link of that particular font through your links and use that particular font in your website. So font also plays a very good impression to the client. Now, apart from font changes, the organization, then the grid systems, there are different aspects which will be coming up in the later videos in CSS only. And we'll be talking about how to create the layout in Flexbox, or how to use it, how to use the grid in a way of displaying a content. So there are many things which we have to discuss in this CSS part. But mind my words, when I'm talking about CSS, a CSS is an integral part of website development, and if your website is not looking good, it will not be accepted in the market. So it's very, very important that you follow the CSS rules and you create them. Luckily, we'll be following the CSS concepts from scratch. That you'll be starting from a person which doesn't know anything about CSS, and will end up with creating a wonderful website of our own choice. And we can add on creative ideas to it, and we can make the website much more uh, easy as well as beautiful. Okay, so create a beautiful website. It's very, very important that you have to have a knowledge of CSS. Okay, now the things are known that why we should use CSS. Now, how to use CSS? For example, if I have that knowledge of CSS, then how should I move ahead? How should I use it? Okay, the first important criteria is that you should create a file with an extension of .css, and we have to write whatever contents we'll be learning about in these few days of CSS programming. Obviously, CSS programming cannot be taught in one day. Okay, so there are some few videos which will be coming up in our later stages. So one by one, in each and every video, we'll be talking about a much more detailed version of how to use them. Now, being the introduction part, it is very important how to create and how to link it. Okay, so we have to create a file with an extension of .css, and then we have to link it with the HTML file. And each and every information will be linked to the HTML tag. Okay, that is how the code is done. Now, we need to know about selectors, the properties and all. We'll be knowing them. But CSS selectors are the most important concepts in CSS, which can be used to address a particular part of the page. For example, a paragraph. A paragraph is a part of a page, or the headings is a part of a page. So each and every tag, HTML tag can be targeted, and a general style can be specified for it. So it is not like that only a paragraph will have a common styling. No, you may have more than one stylings of a paragraph. You can add them when and where you require. Now, if we are talking about selectors, it is a fixed type of coding. But when we talk about classes and IDs, so we can create classes, we can create IDs, attributes, and then we can link them to the respective elements, the respective tags. When I'm talking about HTML elements, obviously it is pointing out to the tags itself. So when I'm talking about a particular tag, like I give a name like A. Now I have done my CSS designing on that class A. Now when I specify that, okay, for this element the design will be class A, then all the properties, all the attributes which are specified in that particular class will take effect in that particular element. So that is how we can focus on a particular class or attribute or a tag and so on. So we can manipulate the CSS content using a class or attribute, ID attribute, or we can directly use a selector and specifically program a particular tag, a design, a particular tag, a style, a particular tag. So when I'm talking about style, it will focus on the looks. When we're talking about design, we'll talk about the layout. Okay. So where it will be placed, how it will look like. So these are the all things which will be covered in CSS. Let me tell you once again that HTML is just the document and nothing else. The look and feel is obviously is taken care by CSS. So cascading style sheet file is very, very important in a website. And every web page can have a different style sheet. For example, you can have thousands of style sheet, and a page can use 3 or 4 style sheet if it wants. Okay, so we'll look into it later on in depth. But currently, a style sheet is created as a file. The programming, CSS programming is done in it, and then it is linked to an HTML file. That is the way it is done. But primarily, the typical focus which every programmers do is select and edit. So when we talk about a particular selector, like I want to talk about a paragraph, then I have to do my coding, think about it and how it should look like, and do that programming on that particular selector or a class. So select and edit is the general method which all programmers follow when we are using CSS. Okay. Now we'll actually have a practical demonstration now. And this will be obviously everything cannot be taught on a slide, right? So we have to have a practical demonstration of how to create a CSS file, and we'll be creating it, and then we'll be linking it with an HTML page, and just to see how the effect comes along. So it doesn't require any live servers. So I'll be not using XAMPP or a hosted server today. We'll be using the file directly. We'll be opening up the file in a browser, and we'll see the effect how it is coming up. Okay. So the first today we'll be just focusing on how to create a CSS file and how to link them. So that would be today's class. So let us go to the practical demonstration of today. Okay. So let me tell you that in general terms, I use Sublime in most of the cases because it is much more easier to work with. So today I've created a file, a folder called with the name of projects. And inside that projects, I have two folders. One is HTML and one is CSS. We'll be creating them. Let us first open up that folder. Okay. So let me open that folder for you. D drive. Let me go to projects. So the folder for you. So here you can see that we have a folder called HTML. And inside this HTML folder, we have a index.html file. Okay. Now I need to create a CSS, okay, a cascading style sheet file also. But what a programmer generally does is we generally organize them in different folders. For example, it will get mixed up if I create a CSS file here only. So let me create a folder uh, here. I'll just create a new folder and I'll name it as CSS. So now I have two folders in my belt. One is HTML under projects. One is HTML. Another one is CSS. Okay. Now in this CSS folder, I will create a file. Uh, let's let's save this file with the name style.css. So this becomes my file. So in the left hand side, I have the HTML page. On the right hand side, I have the style sheet. Now what I need to do is I need to open my browser. Okay, let me do one thing. I'll just go to my HTML page, projects, HTML. I'll just simply open up this file. So it's done. So this is my file. So I'll open up. So this is the best way of working. So on the left hand side, I have my coding page. On the right hand side, I have the preview window and it is running for me. So let me first create the HTML file. For creating it, I can just say HTML. This Sublime, I generally love this. Why? Because it helps me to code. Okay, one thing, there is a problem. I'm writing it in the CSS file, therefore I'm not getting the output. Okay, HTML, Sublime is a very easy way to type. So when you type HTML and press tab, automatically it will create the boilerplate for you. So you can have the HTML tag. Inside that you will have the head section, you will have the body section. The title which I would like to give is my website, and this is it. Okay. Now I'll save it. I'll just run it. You can see that my website is there. It's coming up. Okay, so it's working fine. I'll save it once again. So it becomes my website. Okay. Now the important factor is I need to link my CSS file. This particular file, that is style.css, we need to save it, and we need to link it with this index file. Okay. So for that, what I can do currently, don't focus on what I'm writing here. Just follow that. We can copy paste any property which we like. So I'd like to give a property like body, and in braces I would like to give a attribute called background color. Okay. So background color I would like to set as red. So this is what I want to do. Okay. So if everything is fine, if it is linked, then this index, the background of this particular page would be red. Now currently it is not. Why? Because it has not been linked yet. Now how to link it? So for linking, we need to, you can just type link and press tab, automatically we'll get the advantage of Sublime. Now then here some sections which we have to know. The first thing, it is a style sheet, number one, and we are linking to a style sheet. That is what it is typing to say. The type is actually a text style sheet. Therefore, the type would be text/CSS. Now, whenever we link a style sheet, these two things will be common. And apart from that, you can have specify the hyperlink reference of this file. So wherever your file is, you need to specify the file. Now, currently we are in HTML. That is, we are in a folder called HTML, and inside that there is no style sheet. So what we need to do is we need to come out of this HTML file and move into the project section. Okay. So in order to do that, we need to give a relative reference like double dot, which indicates that one level back. So I have now moved to the previous folder, that is projects folder, and inside that I have a CSS folder with me, and inside the CSS folder I have style.css with me. So this is the perfect link where we have specified a correct link to this file. Now what this file is saying is whenever you are moving to the body segment, the background color should be red. So we have to set, it is trying to say that we need to specify the body segment background as red. Okay. So if everything is fine, then it should display the property. See, the background is now red in color. Now, if there is any mismatch like, for example, I have given the spelling wrong, or there is some errors in linking, the file has not been linked yet. In such a situation, the effect will not be revealed there. Okay, so this is a simple test just to link and test whether your CSS file has been properly linked with your web page or not. So if it is not, then obviously typing hell lot of code will not matter at all. Why? Because it will not work as your design. So the complete design will be stored in a separate file, and the complete HTML will be stored separately. We need to link them using the link tag, and we need to give a correct path so that that particular specific style sheet is used. You can have more than one style sheet if you like, but which particular style sheet you would like to use, it depends on the link which you are giving. For example, here I have given CSS. Okay. Now once again I'll just test. It is giving me the color is black. Okay. Now if I create another file here, I save it with the name style1.css. Okay. In here I am just giving body the same attribute property I would like to specify, and the attribute which I would like to say is background. the background color, I have to say blue. Now, there are two style sheets now and a single HTML page. Now, which particular style sheet you are using? Currently, you are using this one. So, if I change the name to style sheet 1, save the code and run the code here, the simple change will come up easily. So, in order to do this style sheet programming or as an introduction behavior, you need to test your style sheet first and how better it is working with your HTML page. Now, whatever you are designing will be having an HTML file in the next video, and we'll be trying to understand about the selectors, the properties, and then how to change the fonts, colors, animations, layouts, grid designing. So one by one in every video, we'll be following one or the other, and we'll be learning CSS in a hell lot of in-depth manner. So uh, let us wait for those videos to come. In the next video, we'll be following and we'll be discussing about selectors and properties, because that is the most important segment. Even here also we have used a property, there is the body, and inside that body we have specified that the background color should be blue. Now if I say, okay, the color I would like to have it in white. Now, this particular content, whenever I type anything in this HTML page, like for example, I give a h1 tag, and inside the h1 tag, in the h1 tag, I am simply saying CSS introduction, and save it and then run it. Now, in which color does it look? It comes in white. Why? Because this particular style sheet follows that particular rule. Now, in the other style sheet, if I change the color as in the red, I would like to use a color like yellow. Okay. Save the file, go to HTML and change the style from style 1 to style. And after that, I'll just recommend. Now, the same content comes up in a different look. Now, it is totally based on the style sheet, which you have linked with the web page, and all the components will have that particular look and feel, the font, the color, the animations, whatever you want to have in your web page, it can be implemented that way. But the basic important factor is you need to link your script file, not script, the style sheet file with your HTML correctly. If it is not done, then obviously it will not be performed. One more thing, you cannot link more than one style sheets to a HTML page. An HTML page will obviously, okay, let us do one thing. We'll just copy this link and then paste it right away. Okay. So I'll change it from style to style sheet 1. Now, a simple manner is a person will get confused. Okay, what to do? Should I use style.css or should I use style1.css? Now, it has a very simple way, right? What it will do, it will say the last link which you have specified, that is the style sheet which I'll follow. So for this particular code, this link is actually irrelevant. Why? Because when you are using more than one links, it will always follow the last link which have been specified. Okay, so it overrides. Whenever you specify a link, it will override the previous link, whatever you have created. So what do we learn from here? Number one, you should link your CSS file properly. Number two, we should organize the CSS files and HTML files in a different folders. And number three, we should give only a single link per page to a CSS cascading style sheet file. So I hope that you have understood this thing. So it's better to use a single link. So now what will we follow? If I save and run, automatically it will follow that particular style sheet which is being presently specified in the HTML page. I hope that you have understood CSS and will be following some more important contents in CSS. This is just an introduction, and the CSS basics will have more videos coming along, and obviously we'll be learning more in CSS. And without CSS, website, no website actually has any stances. Now, in general life, you may have CSS templates. You can use those templates for a website. But the problem comes along when you need to change the content, you need to change the design. So you need to have the knowledge of CSS in order to change the template also. So if anybody gives you a template and says, okay, use this template, but change the background color of this division to that. Now you need to have that knowledge of CSS to make those changes. So even if you don't want to create your own styles, but then also you have to have that knowledge of CSS at least. So in the next set of videos, we'll be having that concept about CSS in depth, so that any changes required or any type of website you want to create with your own creative styles, you can do them. Okay, so that's for now. Thank you.